Resentment is a familiar feeling for most of us. It whispers to us in moments of betrayal, injustice, or disappointment. It's that lingering bitterness when we feel someone has wronged us or when life hasn't unfolded as we expected. At first, resentment can feel like a protective shield, guarding our dignity or sense of fairness. But as time passes, it begins to consume us, robbing us of peace, clarity, and joy. When someone wrongs us, whether it's a friend betraying our trust, a boss taking credit for our work, or a loved one neglecting us, it's natural to feel hurt. Hurt often transforms into anger, and if left unchecked, that anger hardens into resentment. Why does resentment feel justified? It's because it ties itself to fairness. Think about it. When we resent someone, it's often because we believe they deserve our anger. They hurt me, we tell ourselves, so they should feel the weight of my pain. Resentment gives us a sense of control, a way to balance the scales. But here's the irony. While we cling to resentment hoping it will punish the other person, it rarely does. More often than not, the person we resent is oblivious to our feelings. They move on with their lives while we remain stuck in a cycle of bitterness. Resentment promises justice, but it delivers suffering. Ours, not theirs. Consider the words of Nelson Mandela, who famously said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." It doesn't harm the person who wronged us. It only poisons our hearts, our relationships, and our well-being. This brings us to our next question. What is the cost of holding on to resentment? Resentment comes at a high price, emotionally, mentally, and even physically. Let's examine this in more detail. First, emotionally. Resentment keeps us tethered to pain. Instead of healing, we stay fixated on the hurt. It's as if we press a bruise repeatedly, never allowing it to heal. This constant focus on negativity erodes our capacity for joy, love, and connection. Second, mentally. Resentment narrows our perspective. It traps us in a mindset of us versus them, making it difficult to see the full picture. When we hold on to resentment, we often overlook the complexity of human behavior, why people act the way they do, and how our own actions might play a role. Third, physically. Studies show that chronic resentment can harm our health. It's linked to stress, high blood pressure, and weakened immunity. Think about that for a moment. Holding on to resentment can literally make us sick. In relationships, resentment is especially destructive. It builds walls where there should be bridges. Imagine a marriage where one partner resents the other for a mistake made years ago. Even if they continue their lives together, that unspoken bitterness creates distance. True intimacy cannot thrive where resentment resides. And let's consider its impact on society. History shows us countless examples of how resentment, if left unchecked, can fuel conflict and division. Resentment between groups, communities, or nations often leads to cycles of revenge and violence. It blinds people to shared humanity, perpetuating cycles of pain. But there is hope. We are not powerless in the face of resentment. We have a choice to let go, to forgive, and to move forward. Letting go of resentment is indeed not easy, and we really cannot pretend it is. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to embrace vulnerability. But the rewards are profound: peace, clarity, and freedom. How do we begin this process? Let's take a look at these 3 practical steps. First, practice empathy. Try to understand the person who hurt you. This doesn't mean excusing their actions, but rather seeing them as human, flawed, just like every one of us. Ask yourself, what might have led them to act the way they did? Sometimes people hurt others because they are hurting themselves. Second, focus on what you can control. Resentment often stems from a desire to change the past, but the past is unchangeable. What we can change is our response in the present. Instead of replaying old grievances, ask ourselves, how can I grow from this experience? Third, choose forgiveness, not for them, but for ourselves. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as condoning wrongdoing, but that's not the case. Forgiveness is releasing our grip on anger and bitterness so that we can be free. It's saying, I will not let this pain define me any longer. A powerful example of forgiveness comes from the story of Immaculée Ilibagiza, a survivor of the Rwandan genocide. After losing her family to unimaginable violence, she faced the man who had orchestrated their deaths. Instead of hatred, she chose forgiveness. She later said, "Forgiveness is all I have to offer." Her story reminds us that even in the face of profound injustice, forgiveness is possible, and it is transformative. Indeed, resentment is a heavy burden to carry. It weighs us down, keeps us trapped in the past, and prevents us from embracing the fullness of life. But here's the truth. We are not defined by the wrongs we endure. We are defined by how we respond to them. When we let go of resentment, we reclaim our power. We free ourselves to live with peace, purpose, and joy.